Today's guest is the godfather of Mumbai's cafe culture, Riyaaz Amlani. He's the mind behind some of your favorite hangout spots like Mocha, Saltwater Cafe, Smokehouse Delhi, and Social. Riyaaz talks about the importance of being adaptable to the ever-evolving social culture. How delivery apps are not the enemy of in-house dining, but a completely different experience in themselves. Here's Riyaaz to tell us more.
I have to say that this is my first podcast
Oh, yay!
ever. So please be gentle.
Thank you so
Yes.
much for being here. It really means
Pleasure,
a lot.
Pooja.
I remember when I came to meet you in 2013, and I think Lure 15 was just about a couple of years old. And I was very confused. I had like one store and I was like dying. And I was like, should I open more stores? What should I do? And I clearly remember this. You told me, it's like, how many hours in a day do you work? And I was like, average 12, on a bad day, maybe 14. It's like, do you think you can work anymore? And I was like, no, I don't think I can work more than that. And you're like, you're always going to only work 12 to 14 hours. So you can do it for one store or you can,
two stores or
you
20
can do it on
stores,
20 stores. So I'll never forget that. So 10 years later, do you still believe in that?
There are some people who want to pour everything they have into everything that they're doing. And it doesn't matter the number of stores. The work will always expand to fill the time you give it. So it really doesn't matter what you want to do. So you should only allow yourself that many hours of work.
And then decide what to do with that.
You decide what to do with the rest of it.
Yeah.
And then whatever's left to give to work. I can say that now, but
Yeah.
that is complete BS.
In reality. Yeah.
Reality is that you have no time for anything else. But fortunately, we are blessed to be able to do things that we love doing. So it doesn't really feel like work. It just feels like 24/7 indulgence.
But is that always the case? Because we always say this, right? Like, I'm really passionate about what I do. But there are days when it feels like really hard, excruciating work. And you'll move away from it and you're like, do I really love baking as much now as I did when I started it? And I go through those things. So do you ever feel that? Or is it always like, I love it and this is passion? And
Every day. The way I see it is the 595 principle. You spend 95% of your time doing shit that you absolutely hate to get 5% of things that you absolutely love. And every time I'm going through that 95% of shit, I'm like, why am I doing this? But when I get to my 5%, then I'm like,
this is...
now I get it. Now I get it. And so I have this existential, crisis every day of my life. But then when you get to that 5%, then you're like, it's worth it.
worth it.
I know why I'm doing this. You have to do all the other stuff to be able to do the stuff that you really love. The question is it worth it? And if the answer comes back, it's worth it, then it's worth it.
So you've said that you weren't a foodie growing up.
I'm still not a foodie.
And so what? How? How does this work?
I look at people and I see absolute passion for food and drink. And I'm like, it's nice. It's great. But I do not dream of degustation as it's not an obsession with me. I will eat anything that's available. I will not plan my meals a day in advance or a few hours. I'm like, whatever's there, that's good enough. I will eat that. But what I do enjoy is creating context around that meal. It's not about the meal itself. I don't know how to cook. I need a recipe to boil water. I'm absolutely rubbish. But I can create a good framework around a really nice meal. So I jam with my chefs, my mixologists, and try and imagine the best possible environment in which to consume that meal. And that's my bag.
That's what it's amazing. And so your father was a restaurateur.
Yes.
And it was a place called Berries at Churchgate.
Berries, that's right.
And wasn't it the same place that you opened Mocha in?
That's right.
Full circle. How did that happen?
Oh, it was not a circle. It was a convoluted squiggle. We went, in many different directions. I was started off on my own. I was in the entertainment business. I was setting up amusement centers, video games, pool parlors, go-karting, bowling alleys, that kind of a thing.
This was in the
This
early
was
20
in around 99, 2000.
2000.
And then what I realized that people really are, they're just looking for a reason to hang out with each other and spend time with each other. Uh, and the most basic, whenever there's human interaction, somehow there's food and drink involved. Somebody will come, you'll offer them a cup of chai or a coffee, or if you'd offer somebody a meal. It's essential to human interaction. And I said, why am I wasting my time like building all these different things? Let me just build a cafe where people can just come and hang out. And
And the landscape, the restaurant landscape was so different back then.
yeah, it was so much easier. It,
We'll get to that.
there was absolute rubbish everywhere, and even if you did something which was like slightly mediocre, you'd get a lot of undue attention. Yeah, it's much hard to break
No, but
through the
Mocha
clutter
was,
now.
I mean, I went to Jai Hind. So that was like, I spent more time in Mocha than I actually did in college. And I still remember, like that chocolate avalanche.
Yes.
I think it was like at that point, every restaurant, every cafe in the city, I mean, we didn't have many, but everywhere you went, it felt like the same menu. And I think at that point, like Mocha just felt like it was clutter breaking. And it was just that memory of like being in college, you're 16, you have your whole life ahead of you, you don't know what's happening, but you're in that moment, you're having your coffee, you're having your dessert. And I think that's the great thing about doing what you do.
Well, thank you. I only wish there was a Mocha when I was in college.
Yeah.
We used to have something called Rasna.
Rasana?
Yeah, Rasna, which was to be dosa idli joint in the day and a pub at night. It was called Rasna Pub. This was in 1990s to 95. But yeah, that was nightlife then.
So just going back to berries, so you how did that idea of like taking the space over and converting to Mocha, was there resistance? Was there like family support? How did that pan out for you?
I was looking for places and it was rather frustrating.
Even then?
Yeah, I was in a series of very long discussions with the family that used to own Regal Cinema. And there was a little place right next to it, which became Nosh at some point of time, which was a defunct little cafe, which I thought had a lot of character and I thought would make the perfect mocha. So after lots of frustration and trying really hard to get that property, my father saw the frustration. He's like, would you like to open up your cafe in this area here? And I was like, no, it doesn't make sense. And my partner Kiran Salaskar, who now runs Country of Origin,
Yes.
right? And he was like, let's do it. I'm telling you it's going to work. Yeah. So my father used to run this place called Berries, which used to have, they used to have typical menus like you were saying.
Yeah.
Used to have Indian, Conti, and Chinese. And there used to be a live band that used to be playing inside.
Exactly.
I think it was just, I think people in Bombay are just used to having two extremes. Cheek bajao. You have a marriage hall and a cemetery right next to each other. You have funeral processions and wedding processions going side by side. It is Bombay. Is the way it works. So I think people were absolutely fine with it. It was in my head that how will people reconcile the two. But it was fine. People used to come and they used to be a little surprised when there was this kind of loud blaring Hindi music coming from inside. And there was no loo, so it had to be a common loo. So people, there used to be a complete transformation of ambience between the inside of the restaurant and the outside of the restaurant. But it was fun. And I think that because there were not too many choices and people wanted something, desperately wanted something new and exciting. That kind of live music scene was anyway on its decline. Yeah. And so it was a thing of the day. You have your food and there's a live band playing, and Usha Uthap and Arjun Singh and famous singers of that time used to come and sing. So Calcutta and Mumbai used to have this really big live band singing culture.
And I read somewhere that you said when you started Mocha and you kind of went to people for advice and you told them that, oh, I want to open a coffee shop. And everyone would just be like, this is not a real business, or this is not a great business to get into. And then because, and I feel like I went through that same journey of like just inexperience being great. Like inexperience is great because you don't know what you can or cannot achieve. So you're like, I can do everything. And you just have this kind of energy. And then later when someone came to you to run a juice bar,
Yes.
you were on the opposite side of this and you said exactly the same thing. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
No, well, the long and short of that is that experience is a very poor substitute for enthusiasm. And I think experience will tell you what is not possible and why it can't be done, and enthusiasm will tell you why everything is possible and why it should be done. And I always find that I used to be a much better restaurateur when I didn't know anything about restauranting. Now that I know a thing or two, I only see problems and why it cannot happen, and why logic doesn't tell you this and why the Excel sheet will not tell you that. And I think it was a moment of clarity when I was on a receiving end of somebody tell me, beta ye possible nahi hai, to me telling somebody, beta ye possible nahi hai. And as I was saying those words, as hearing those words coming out of my mouth, I kind of realized that I had become a naysayer. And since then, I've had this kind of epiphany or moment of clarity where every time I hear a voice inside me saying, "Oh, this cannot happen," or me advising somebody that no, this is not possible, I kind of very quickly roll back and say, "Why don't you give it a shot? Let's try it. What the hell? What's the worst that could happen? Give it a shot."
That's amazing to recognize, because otherwise you just let that, negative space take over. And then every time you want to do something new, that voice will come and say, I mean, sometimes I ask myself that if, knowing everything I know today.
Would you have done what you did then?
Yeah.
The answer is no, you wouldn't have.
I would have,
But you did it and you made it happen, and look at you now. Well done.
I would have done things differently.
Well, thank God you didn't know. Because what she did is absolutely amazing, Pooja.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my career highlight moments as well was there was one dinner that we had done for all these chefs combined, and at Cafe Zoe, it was one of these chefs on a mission thing, and there was Gresh and there was Viraf and JD
Irfan
and
Pabani, I think,
Irfan,
was
if he
there,
was
and
there.
Rahul Akirkar,
Yeah, and it was all these guys.
It was
and I
an
was,
old boys reunion.
and I was like this 25-year-old plating this passion fruit truffle and all of that, and you guys were all eating. And then after the dinner, we all stepped out, and you were like, welcome to the club. You've done this. And I was just like, I just felt like accepted.
Oh, I didn't mean for it to sound like a club, but yeah,
No, you know what
it
I'm
was
saying.
it was a little bit of an incestuous little thing, and Rahul Akirkar was everybody's spiritual grandfather because they'd all kind of birthed from his culinary adventures. Irfan, Viraf, Gresham, and not you, of course, but you were there. You were the only person who didn't come from the Rahul Akirkar
But
school
to
of
be fair,
hospitality.
I did try. When I came back from culinary school, I did go for a job interview to Indigo Delhi. And then I was like, okay, maybe there's not enough of what I've learned of what I want to do. So I said, okay, let me just start my own thing. But I would have been one of them as well. So you've identified that there's a lack of public spaces in a massive city like Bombay. Do you think that's changed?
No, not at all. In fact, whatever little public spaces we have are aggressively being taken away from us. I'm a big believer in in the urban landscape. You need places where you can commune with the city, where you can feel like you belong, right? And I don't think India takes public spaces very seriously. I think internationally, public spaces have been very closely linked with good mental health. Right, that's where you kind of interact with the city. That's where you feel you belong. The piazzas, in Italy, and the parks in all these other countries that you find where you can go with a bottle of wine, you can take your picnic basket, you can go relax, and just feel like you belong. But nowhere in Bombay can you do that. The public spaces that we do have are Marine Drive, Worli Seaface, Carter Road, the reclamation stretch. And even there, you cannot really enjoy those spaces. It's very regulated. You can't, bring something to eat or drink. There are no toilets over there. You can't even get a glass of water if you wanted one. So it's very, very neglected in cities. And I think restaurants then step in and become those public spaces where people can actually feel and commune with the city and meet other people and interact with each other. But yeah, I feel that, and now because of the coastal road and the metros, etc., whatever little public
Yeah.
space is left is now under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And but it is for a better tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
And you've also talked about the importance of like cafes shaping culture from the days of Mocha. Every college kid spend a lot of time there. Do you think that the market now is saturated with international cafe brands like Starbucks, Tim Hortons, etc.? And how do you think this affects local players?
I don't think there's saturation. I think cafes are very different from restaurants. People a lot of times use it interchangeably. Yes, they do serve food and drink. Both cafes and restaurants serve food and drink. But essentially, when you go to a restaurant, you're going for novelty, you're going for experience, you're going for a sense of elevation. But when you go for cafes, you're going for community, you're going for conversation, you're going for comfort and convenience.
The need state is different.
The need
time-
state is different. The use case is different. You don't think twice about going to a cafe every day. You would go and reach out to cafe, but in a restaurant you're always thinking, "Oh, कल ही तो गए थे यार, अभी कुछ नया try करते हैं या कुछ और try करते हैं." The use case, if a restaurant can get you to come back more than once a month, it's big. But if a cafe, you can get people to come back you can get them to come back twice a day,
Yeah.
thrice a day. It doesn't matter because it's very different. People think of cafes very differently. So these are social spaces, right? What is called third spaces. So they're different animals, but I think that we've had our own version of social spaces. We've had chai ki tapris, we've had the Nukkad chai shop, we've had the coffee houses of Calcutta, we've had the college canteen staircase, and it's different. The English have their pubs. The French have their cafes, the Germans have their beer gardens, the Moroccans have the kawa khanas, the Turkish have their own spin on it. So it's all very different. But again, I feel that social spaces are very intertwined with the cultural fabric. And you might have these foreign chains that come in, but at the end of the day, you see also for every Starbucks that comes in, you'll see a chai and sutta bar, kind of a chai shop springing up, or a MLA chai wala thela springing up, or a chayos or a chai point, which are counterpoints to the invasion of foreign culture. And even for social, when we realized that people want to hang out, but they don't necessarily want to have biscotti with their coffee, because they want chai and khari, right? And why not? Right? Why not have a chai and khari, or why not have a batasa with your Nescafe? Yeah. And I think that's what even social try to do is try to embrace our own spin on our own cafe culture. So it's nice to have variety, and I think whatever resonates with people, But I especially think that Indians like things spicy. They like it saucy. They like it cheesy. They like it fresh above everything else. They don't like stuff lying around in a refrigerator. मतलब हमारे यहाँ रोटी भी बनती है तो एक के बाद एक आती है. You don't get them all together, because that's the equity or the premium that we place on freshness. Things just lying around in a refrigerator or self-service is not culturally us. We may adopt to it, but we don't really like it. We like to be served, and we like to be served fresh things.
So what I'm hearing is that you also really understand what young people want, and even whether it's Mocha or whether it's social. How do you get your research? How do you understand what people really want? Is there a method to it, or is it just something that innately is, you?
I do not understand what young people want. I really don't, and I think generational gap is creeping up on me, much against my. But I try to listen. I try to understand what about the contemporary culture is appealing to the new audience which is coming in. I mean, Mocha was built for Gen Xers, which are people like me. Social was built for millennials, and I'm hoping Gen Zs.
So now, what about Gen Z? Are you? And this is like very interesting for me to understand how scale works. So when you came up with the first social, obviously, it's very different building one concept, but then taking that concept and then expanding it across cities with different teams and still retaining that essence of why it was built. What is the process of doing that, and has that been very difficult for you to achieve?
Yeah, to briefly sum it up, every city is different, and even within a city, things are different. Kolaba is very different from a Kurla, and Lower Parel is very different from a Parel, and we have to accept.
And I think that's the understanding that social started with, right? Because every social was named after the
Yes,
locality that it was
we
based in.
take on
Yeah.
the community that we
Yeah.
serve. So we will always have the area as a
Yeah.
part of a brand prefix, and so if it's a Carter Road social, then we try and find how we relevant to Carter Road. Why is it that why do we belong there, and how can we become part of the community, and how can we serve that community? So there's a lot of research that we do before we open up. What makes that community special? What are the nice things about the community? Which are the great eating places? What are places over there which have historical significance? Which are the which bears the railway station? Which are the popular bus stops? Which are the popular routes? Try and get under the skin of the life of somebody who lives or works in that region. And there are a lot of if you know kind of references, visual references about the space that we try and get in. And we always try and create a space where we try and encourage a lot of local influences. So while we have something which is called the soul of social, which is immutable, cannot change. It has to be there. But that's like the core, 10-15%. But the rest of it, we are pretty open to changing, and we change the menu, and we'll change the food menu and the drinks menu, and change the offering, we'll change the programming, we'll change the playlisting, depending on the kind of people who are there. And usually it is the store manager who is the main person, and we try and get feedback from them, and we try and keep it as loose as possible so we can shape shift a little bit and be as relevant to the community. So instead of forcing ourselves or our ethos
So it's
onto
not like
people,
a cut, copy, paste.
no, it's a dialogue. I think it is a dialogue.
That's super
And
interesting.
that's what we try to do. It's hard sometimes to do this at scale, but this is why we are in it, because it's really rewarding to learn a little bit about the culture of the place that we're entering into, and then we kind of get to shine a light on it, and I think that's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So while you opened many restaurants, you had to shut quite a few as well.
Yeah, I have shut a few. I've lost a few. Yeah.
But is that something, I know when maybe when you were younger and it was newer, was it more personal than it is now? Or how do you deal with, do you look at it as success, failure, very clear, different? Like how do you approach it?
We definitely, when we enter something, we definitely go in thinking that we want it to be here forever. Right? And I don't think there's one right way of doing this. Right? There are some very, very good restaurateurs who I have the highest respect for, realize that things are transient and they are passing, and they will build a product for 3 years because that is a trend. And after 3 years, they will take the same kitchen equipment and they will flip it into a product which is more relevant, because I think it is easier to pull people to a new restaurant than it is to
Build
keep
that,
pulling
yeah.
people back to something that has been around for a while. And it could be lucrative, but when we approach a space, we think, how can we be here forever? How can we become part of the landscape of that particular community? So we enter it with that mindset that look, we have to kind of evolve, but it has to be an evolution, but not it cannot always be a revolution, right? So that happens once, but then you have to kind of move along with this space. So we always come in with the hope that we are going to be here forever, and we try to build it for that. And it's becoming increasingly harder. In 2000, it was normal for restaurants to be around for 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
But now it is 15 years. Wow. How did you pull that off?
15 years is like legacy.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that people are becoming novelty hunters. But at the same time, I think that there's real love for some brands that stick around. And it all depends on, I think, your mindset, where what is it that you're trying to build? Can you be a small part player in the epic movie that is the life of your customer? Can you be a little character in that that saga. And if you can be, then you deserve it.
I think another thing that you personally do really well is build relationships. I feel that whoever that you've worked with, I think you have really strong relationships. At least that's the way I see it. Whether it's, with Ayaz or with Gresham, like there's really like a bond. There's a deep bond. Is that how you normally run course, or is it a personality thing?
No, I mean, Ayaz and Gresh are, their DNA is if you don't think of it sexually, but their DNA is very much part of Impresario, and we are what we are today because of of what they led. But I think when you work with somebody shoulder to shoulder, when you're in the trenches with them, you do develop a bond. No, I mean, and you kind of do bounce off each other and take that energy and exchange it, and it kind of, like I said, it's a dialogue, right? It's never one person who can drive everything along. So it's a great process. We've had some fantastic people along the way. We've had some fantastic collabs along the way. Ayaz has been very, very instrumental. But as we go along, we have those bonds. But honestly, the busier you get, the harder it becomes to
Yeah.
maintain those kind of bonds. But I'd like to think there's something there that lasts forever because we kind of built something special together, and I think we always have that.
Yeah, because for me as well, like I've been working with the same design agency from day one. It's been 13, 14 years this year. And it's just, as you grow, suddenly you're like, okay, things kind of, you have to start taking different routes and you have to look at things differently. But I think there's like this, like you were saying, the soul of something, right? I feel like there are certain people that really understand the soul of your business and why you do what you do. And for me, it's always been important to like, at least it feels like safety and comfort. It's like, he's there and he's like looking
Yeah,
after it, and
yeah.
my vision is going to keep translating irrespective of how much we change.
I think
over
that
years.
they also keep you real.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They don't let you get high on your
Yeah,
own
yeah,
supply.
yeah.
They kind of it's a
That's-
good reminder of where you began from and where you started, and how it felt to be in that kind of startup frame of mind where everything seemed big and intimidating. And you kind of dug in together. It's nice to have that in your life.
What do you think are some of the biggest changes in the restaurant industry today? And what are some of the changes that you want to see? Something that you see is changing for the good, something that you wish would change.
For me, I mean, it's hard for me to comment, to give commentary on the change that has happened, but I like to observe the changes happening, and without passing judgment, I feel that increasingly there are some very important chef-based philosophies that are emerging, where people are doing something because they have a voice and they really have something to say, and increasingly we are being seen that in the Indian restaurant scene. We are seeing great restaurants emerging from India, which are taking up attention of the world, which are pushing what can be possible in India forward. Mask, Ikka, the Hungering guys, Yash and Samir, who are doing some incredible stuff. Indian Accent, Sidecar, people were pushing the all genres of food and drink forward, which I think that is really nice and exciting that they have a voice, and finally people are going back to these restaurants. I mean, I know how hard it was for Indian Accent to survive the first 5 years, and the same for Mask to survive the first 4 years, but they stuck to their guns. They kept doing what they were doing, and now they've kind of emerged, and they're finally getting the recognition and the attention and the awards that they truly deserve. But that was really hard. So I'm really happy about that the Indian customers now finally waking up and going and rewarding and recognizing these restaurants and frequenting these restaurants. So that's the positive side of where I feel this is going. On the negative side, I think that people are they're becoming too social media focused, and it's more about
It's something looking good on the gram rather than isn't actually.
yeah, I think yeah. But again, if this is it, then this is it. I mean, this is what evolution is. Then if this is where it's heading, then so be it. I mean, uh, people are getting excited about a product. They find novelty in it. They want to go. They want to try it out. They want a selfie while they're trying to do it. So be it. Why not? I mean,
Then you build a space that.
sorry. Then if you can't beat them, join them.
And you were president of the NRAI for 3 years. And what was so important about, like, what were the kind of changes that you wanted to bring? Because you've been a champion you've been that voice for the restaurant industry. So what is it that you feel is really important for the restaurant industry to achieve, and what is something that you truly stand for?
When I was starting off in the restaurant business, I think that every restaurateur out there can relate to this. You felt very vulnerable. There's a complete maze and a labyrinth of licenses and no objection certificates that you need to navigate to be able to sell a sandwich. To get 36 different licenses, and for each license you need 4 different NOCs. That takes up a considerable amount of your time, as you would possibly relate, and you are absolutely at the mercy of the bureaucratic environment that you operated in. Any person could cancel your license, and if that meant that so many people would lose their jobs, everything that you worked for could go down the drain if you didn't participate in a system. For a while, I thought that this is how it works, and then after a while, I was like, yeah, this is how it works, but this is not how it should work, because I mean the amount of employment that the hospitality industry is providing to the country, the amount of taxes that we're generating. Hospitality business is 7 times the hotel business. Restaurants is 25 times the size of Bollywood.
That's
It's
insane.
second only to the banking and the railways in its employment generating capability. And I was like, where's the recognition? Where's the forget the recognition, forget the awards. I mean, why are we not being recognized as for what we truly are?
As a credible community.
Is what we are empowering people. Like, you could take somebody and you could train them to be in the hospitality business in 2 days, whereas every other business requires a lot of skilling. The restaurant business is a bridge between the blue collar workers and the white collar workers, right? It is absolutely that bridge, and we felt that after some time I was like, listen, this needs to be stopped. Like, we need to come together and we need to fight back. We need to push back. So and I think that resonated with a lot of people, and everybody just felt that, look, you're not alone. We're here to fight back. We're here to speak up. And I think that culturally also, a restaurateur or even a restaurant is viewed as a rich man's indulgence and not a sanskari thing. Like, good people don't go to restaurants. घर पे खाना खाओ, थाली बनाई है आपके लिए रखी है, बाहर क्या खाने की जरूरत है? बाहर आप जाते हो, दारू पीते हो, खाना बाहर खाते हो, आप मतलब बुरे किस्म के लोग हैं आप. So I think that needs to change. I think people mistake service for servility. And a server for a servant, and a lot, I saw us getting bashed all the time. Oh, they need to be taught a lesson in humility. How can they talk to a customer like that? But they themselves would go to a waiter and go, or or not even look at a person in the eye. And I thought that all this needs to change. I think there needed to be a cultural change, and then that would not happen until we bound it together and kind of put a united front. But I think that I found myself in a unique position where, because I was opening up restaurants in so many different regions, in the north, in the south, east, west. So I had this capability that I knew so many people, and I thought that I could. I found myself in that position, and I thought it was incumbent upon me to kind of bring them together. So, and that time NRAI was there representing the interests of the standalone restaurants, whereas FHRAI was more about hotels and restaurants together. But the needs of the standalone restaurants were largely kind of not front and center. So NRAI gave us that platform, and I think the fact that I knew so many people across so many regions I was able to unite them. We were able to come up with.
And do you see the impact of it today?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope there has been. I think people have started recognizing the contribution that restaurants are making. Have we still got a Padma Vibhushan? No, but I think people are recognizing that it is definitely a force. Yeah.
Okay, next controversial question.
Oh, okay.
No, so you've very vocally, you've not been the biggest fan of delivery portals. And now with the massive pivot to delivery over in-house dining, especially post-COVID, what is your approach to food delivery?
I think it's a misconception. I have never had anything against delivery business per se. I think they're non-competing businesses with each other, and I deeply appreciate the role aggregators have played in growing that segment of the business. What I am against is the tyranny of the aggregators, not the aggregators themselves. And I want there to be an level playing field. I want our agreements to be not unilateral. I want there to be fair play and fairness in the way it is conducted. And I think that we echo the same pain points of the entire industry. So we're not against delivery at all, because we don't think that dining out is competing with eating at home. They are two separate businesses. Dining out will always remain dining out, right? And I think COVID really brought home this point, because while all the pundits and all these tech pundits were predicting that, nobody's ever going to go and shop offline again, and everything's going to happen online. Nobody's ever going to go to the restaurant again, and everybody's going to, order in. All that has just proven to be has been completely debunked.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, after COVID lifted, people went back to restaurants like never before.
Yeah.
People started traveling like never before.
Yeah.
Malls were filled like never before. No. I think that you can never, ever, in fact, what COVID has taught us is that you can never, ever replace dining. And because it's dining out is not consuming food, right? Dining out is it's not even an experience. Yeah. It is a get together with your friends. It's a gossip session. It is a celebration of a little victory. It is celebrating a birthday, anniversary. Is going somewhere to forget about your breakup. Is going there to meet people. It is human behavior, and that's never going to change. I mean, what delivery business is competing is that, okay, घर पे आज खाना बना है, बहुत boring है, तो बाहर से खाना. So delivery business is competing with your kitchen. It's not competing with the experience of dining out. So that's a misnomer. And I have nothing against delivery portals. They are they are all friends of mine. But I think the NRAI is what stands in between complete annihilation of the industry and the tyranny of aggregators, and that needs to be kept in check. And I think that now Kabir and Sagar, who have taken on the baton of NRAI, are doing a great job with it as well. And it's just to protect the interests of the little guy. They're starting off, I think, a 25% delivery charge, a 22% discount, and 15% discovery charge, which is your marketing. So literally 60% is going to the aggregators, and aggregators with 60% of this entire ecosystem still are not making money, but a restaurateur is supposed to make money with only 40% margin, out of which 30% is used, as you would know, as 35% is food cost. So in 5% you have to pay for your salaries, your rent. How is it going to work? How is it going to work? It's not. So we are here to talk sense to them.
So Riyaaz, what is the one thing about success that you know now that you wish you had known earlier?
Success. It's not a thing. It's you don't really get it ever. I mean, it's also transient. It's a moment, and then you could get an award one day, and then nothing changes the next day. I mean, nobody cares. You feel good about it for a couple of hours, and then it brings you back, crashing back right down to earth. So I don't really know what success really means. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel successful. I know that I feel that I should feel successful, but I don't really. I feel that it's it's a chase for the horizon. The you keep running towards it and it keeps eluding you. So I think at the end of the day, you just have to be happy with what you're putting out there and not really uh, put put your own self-esteem in the hands of somebody else.
I think that's the most important.
Yeah, I think that it doesn't work.
A lot of young people that want to get into the food and beverage space are watching this. If you had to give them advice, without being cynical.
No, I don't want to give anybody any advice. No, I it's not my advice. I don't want to do that. Just keep on keeping on. Just do whatever it is that you love. Do whatever it is that floats your boat. Just keep doing more of that.
And what is the big picture dream for you? Where do you see?
Bahamas without internet. I don't know. I'm just here for the ride.
Is it something do you think about? Do you think about like, oh, in 20 years from now, I'd like to be here doing this? Or is it something that you just take as it comes?
I don't know about 20 years from now, but I know all the things that I'm missing out on now. I don't get to hang with my family as much as I would like to. I don't get to hang out with my friends as much as I'd like to. So I'm trying to, I guess success for me would be able to not have to sacrifice one at the cost of the other. So I'm trying to find balance. And I've also realized that balance is not an equilibrium. They're two separate things. My equilibrium is 70% work, 30% the rest. And for some people, it would be 50-50 work-life balance. But the way I see it, you can either build something really special or you can have work-life balance. You can't have both. And if you're and it's great if people want work-life balance, great. But then forget about like achieving something extraordinary or doing something really, really special. If work-life balance is what floats your boat, that's good too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
Pooja, it was an absolute pleasure. Long time coming. Thank you so much.
I hope you liked that episode. Tell me what you thought about it in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel. For audio episodes, subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.